Dr. Zixanal adjusted his ocular enhancers and sighed dramatically. Another day, another primitive species to catalog for the Galactic Confederation's ever-expanding database of life forms. Except this one was supposedly special. He scoffed at the notion. In his 342 stellar cycles of xenobiological research, he'd yet to encounter a species that truly surprised him. "Assistant Quippler, prepare the examination chamber," he commanded, his voice carrying that particular tone of boredom reserved for tasks beneath his considerable intellect. "And do try not to drop anything this time. These instruments cost more than your annual stipend." Quippler rolled all four of her eyes simultaneously, a feat of evolutionary multitasking that never failed to annoy her superior. "Yes. Oh, brilliant and never mistaken, Dr. Zixanal," she replied, her voice dripping with more sarcasm than the toxic rain pools of Ventrax Prime. "Shall I also fetch your ego inflation pump while I'm at it? It seems to be running a bit low today. Your attempts at humor continue to be as unsuccessful as your last 3 relationship endeavors," Dr. Zixanal retorted, tapping his datapad impatiently. "Now let's see what all the fuss is about with this human." The specimen had been captured during a routine survey of the system the primitives called Sol. Though the Confederation had strict non-interference protocols for developing worlds, exceptions were made for scientific research of exceptional importance. And somehow this unassuming blue planet had produced something that caused the preliminary scout team to immediately request a full research vessel. "I still don't understand why Command diverted the empirical truth for this," Quippler muttered, arranging an impressive array of scanners and sample collection devices. "It's a bipedal carbon-based life form from a watery rock. We've seen thousands of those." Dr. Zixanal fluttered his gill slits in agreement. "Bureaucratic overreaction, no doubt. Some junior officer probably got excited about their first field discovery. Still," he added, examining the readout on the containment chamber, "the atmospheric composition of their homeworld is peculiar. Oxygen levels that would be considered toxic on most developed worlds." The door to the laboratory hissed open as Security Officer Krax entered, his exoskeleton clicking rhythmically against the polished floor. "The specimen is secured and ready for transport to your examination chamber, Doctor," he reported with military precision. "Though I must warn you, it's been talking constantly. Vocalization is hardly unexpected in sentient species," Dr. Zixanal dismissed with a wave of his upper appendage. "It's not the vocalization that concerns me, Doctor," Krax replied, his mandibles twitching nervously. "It's that it's speaking perfect galactic standard, and making jokes about our ship design." A moment of silence fell over the laboratory, broken only by the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. "Well now," Dr. Zixanal said, straightening his posture and feeling, for the first time in decades, a flutter of genuine curiosity. "Perhaps this won't be quite as tedious as I expected. Bring in the human." The containment pod slid silently into the examination chamber, its transparent walls revealing a remarkably unremarkable bipedal creature, male, by their species dimorphism, with a nest of dark hair atop its head and an expression that could only be described as amused. "Preliminary scans initiating," Quippler announced, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "Subject designation, human, male. Approximately 3 decades old according to their planetary rotation cycle." Dr. Zixanal observed as the scanner beams washed over the creature. "Does it have a designation?" The human looked directly at him and smiled. "My name is Elijah Winters, not it, and I can understand every word you're saying. Nice lab you've got here, very shiny. Bit heavy on the chrome though, don't you think? Very 1950s, retro-futuristic." Dr. Zixanal's gill slits flared in surprise. "You speak our language?" "No, I'm just making mouth noises that coincidentally form perfect galactic standard sentences," Elijah replied, leaning casually against the containment wall. "Of course I speak your language. Your ship's been broadcasting educational materials on all frequencies since you entered our solar system. Did you think we wouldn't notice?" Quippler snorted, earning a glare from her superior. "The scan results are confusing, Doctor." "Confusing how?" Dr. Zixanal demanded, pulling his attention away from the inexplicably calm human. "Well, for starters, his biology suggests he should be dead. The cellular regeneration rate doesn't match his species' apparent technological development. And these endocrine readings? Either our equipment is malfunctioning or this creature produces enough stress hormones to kill most sentient life forms, yet somehow uses them productively. Elijah raised his eyebrows. Oh, you mean adrenaline? Yeah, we kind of get high on our own stress chemicals. Some of us jump out of perfectly functional aircraft for fun. We call it skydiving. Dr. Zixnall's eye stalks extended to their full length. You deliberately induce fear responses for entertainment, says the guy who kidnapped someone for science, Elijah countered, examining his fingernails with exaggerated interest. By the way, your containment field has a harmonic resonance issue. I could probably disrupt it with the right pitch of humming, but that would be rude since we're just getting acquainted. Whipplar's datapad slipped from her grasp, clattering to the floor. He identified a Class 3 security vulnerability. By ear. Impossible, Dr. Zixnall snapped, though his confidence was noticeably shaken. The human is bluffing. No primitive species could possibly. Elijah suddenly hummed a perfect A-flat, causing the containment field to flicker momentarily. Sorry, finger slipped on my vocal cords. Won't happen again. He winked. Unless it does. Dr. Zixnall's exoskeletal ridges darkened with irritation. Increase containment field density by 300%, and initiate deep tissue scanning immediately. Overkill much, Elijah commented, seemingly unbothered by the increased security measures. You know where I come from, we usually buy dinner for someone before we probe them this thoroughly. The xenobiologist felt his professional detachment slipping. This human wasn't behaving like any test subject he'd ever encountered. Where was the fear? The confusion? The appropriate awe at superior technology? You do realize you're the first of your kind to encounter galactic civilization? Dr. Zixnall asked, struggling to regain control of the interaction. You should be terrified. Elijah merely shrugged. Maybe you haven't heard. Humans don't do terrified very well. We're more the terrifying type. The scan tickles, by the way. This is preposterous, Dr. Zixnall muttered, reviewing the genetic scan results for the 12th time. Run it again, Whipplar. I've already run it 11 times, Doctor, she replied, mandibles clicking in agitation. The results remain consistent, despite being inconsistent with all known laws of evolutionary biology. The laboratory's central holographic display showed a rotating strand of human DNA, sections highlighted in various colors representing different genetic origins. The vast majority, a full 99.8% according to their analysis, was coded in gray, indicating unknown origin. How can nearly 100% of a species' genetic makeup be unclassifiable? So, Dr. Zixnall demanded, pacing around the display. Every species in the Confederation database shares at least some common markers. Elijah watched the scientist distress with evident amusement from his containment pod. Having trouble with your little project? Dr. Zixnall swiveled toward the human, composure cracking. Your genetic structure makes no logical sense. It's as if your species evolved in complete isolation from the rest of the galaxy's evolutionary patterns. Or maybe your database just isn't as comprehensive as you thought, Elijah suggested. Universe is a big place after all. Whipplar approached the containment field, genuine scientific curiosity overcoming her usual sarcasm. According to our analysis, 99.8% of your DNA is completely unknown to our systems. The remaining 0.2% matches markers we've only seen in apex predators from death worlds. And that 0.2% is frankly terrifying, Dr. Zixnall added. It suggests adaptations for survival under conditions no sentient species should ever evolve in. Elijah's lips curled into a smile. You rounded down. A tense silence filled the laboratory. What did you say? Dr. Zixnall asked, his voice barely audible. I said, you rounded down, Elijah repeated, examining the holographic display of his own DNA with professional interest. It's definitely more than 0.2%. Your system is probably having trouble classifying some of our more interesting adaptations. Whipplar and Dr. Zixnall exchanged alarmed glances, such as, the assistant ventured. Well, let's see, Elijah began, counting off on his fingers. We can survive radiation levels that would kill most organisms. Our bodies can adapt to nearly any environment given enough time. We can digest substances that would poison most species. Oh, and we intentionally consume chemicals that are technically toxic because we enjoy the sensation. Impossible, Dr. Zixnall declared. though his voice lacked conviction. You know what's on our planet? Elijah continued conversationally. Oxygen. Lots of it. Highly reactive, corrosive to most metals. Literal poison to anaerobic life forms. We breathe it. For fun. Need it. Actually. Many species use oxygen in their respiratory processes, Kruplar noted. At 21% atmospheric concentration, with nitrogen, carbon dioxide and trace gases that would be considered industrial pollutants on most worlds, Elijah challenged. Earth isn't just our home, it's a training ground that's been trying to kill us since we evolved, and guess who won? The laboratory's ambient temperature seemed to drop several degrees as the implications sank in. Security Officer Krax, who had remained silently observing by the door, suddenly activated his communication device. Command, this is security. Requesting elevated containment protocols for the human specimen. Oh, now you're getting it, Elijah said, nodding appreciatively. Smart bug. But here's the real question you should be asking yourselves. He leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. If I'm just a random human you happen to pick up, imagine what our soldiers are like. Dr. Zixnall's exoskeleton paled visibly. You're not a soldier? Me?
Nah.
Elijah replied, chuckling. I teach kindergarten. That's 5-year-old human children, 30 of them, in one room, every day. The xenobiologist's datapad clattered to the floor. And you survive this. Thrive, actually, Elijah corrected, though finger painting day can get pretty intense. The emergency klaxons blared across the empirical truth, pulsing crimson light bathing the corridors in an ominous glow. What do you mean the containment field just deactivated? Dr. Zixnall shouted over the alarm, his exoskeletal plates vibrating with agitation. Those systems have 17 redundancy protocols. Security Officer Krax's voice crackled through the ship-wide communication system. All science personnel, be advised, the human specimen has escaped containment. Repeat, the human designated Elijah Winters is loose on Deck 7. All non-security personnel are ordered to secure themselves in the nearest emergency shelter. Kruplar frantically tapped at her datapad. The ship's systems are experiencing cascading malfunctions, environmental controls, security protocols. Even the cafeteria replicators are producing nothing but something called hot pockets. How is this possible? Dr. Zixnall demanded, his ocular enhancers extending to their full length. The human had no access to our computer systems. The laboratory door suddenly sealed shut with a pneumatic hiss, locking them inside. Well, that's just perfect, Kruplar muttered. We're trapped in here while a potentially hostile alien roams the ship. This is exactly how those horror entertainment videos the human mentioned begin. The Dr. Zixnall accessed the emergency override panel, his appendages shaking slightly. We are the Confederation's premier xenobiological research team. We will not panic over a single primitive specimen who just happens to have escaped our most advanced containment protocols, through means we cannot explain. The overhead lights flickered ominously. Still not panicking, he added, less convincingly. After 3 tense minutes of emergency override sequences, the laboratory door reluctantly slid open. Dr. Zixnall peered cautiously into the corridor, his gill slits flaring nervously. We should proceed to the bridge, he decided. If anyone can explain how this happened, it will be the command team. They moved cautiously through the deserted corridors, the only sound besides the alarms being the rhythmic clicking of their exoskeletal limbs against the polished floor. As they approached the central lift, an entirely different sound reached their auditory receptors. Someone was whistling. Is that Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley? Kruplar whispered, her species' encyclopedic knowledge of galactic culture momentarily overriding her fear. The whistling grew louder as they rounded the corner, and there, casually leaning against the lift controls, was Elijah Winters. He wore no protective gear whatsoever, breathing the ship's atmosphere as if it were his native air. Oh hey guys, he greeted cheerfully. You're missing all the excitement. Did you know your ship has an entire research level dedicated to exotic desserts from across the galaxy? I just tried something called quantum fudge, still trying to decide if I liked it, considering it existed in multiple states simultaneously until I observed it. How are you breathing our atmosphere? Dr. Zixnall demanded, maintaining what he hoped was a safe distance. It contains elements toxic to your species. Elijah shrugged. I held my breath for the first minute, then figured out my lungs could filter it. Bit tangy. But you get used to it. Your ship's actually remarkably similar to our atmospheric composition, just missing that oxygen kick we humans enjoy. That's biologically impossible, Quippler stammered. Adaptation at that level would require generations of evolution. Or just really motivated human physiology, Elijah countered, pushing off from the wall. You guys coming to the bridge. I've been trying to get there, but your security systems keep rerouting me to random parts of the ship. It's been a great tour though. Love what you've done with the antimatter containment chamber. Very sleek. Dr. Zixanel's scientific curiosity momentarily overcame his alarm. You were in the antimatter chamber. The radiation levels there are tingly. Elijah finished with a grin. Made my fillings hum a bit. No biggie. The ship suddenly lurched violently, throwing the aliens against the wall while Elijah merely shifted his weight, maintaining perfect balance. That can't be good, he remarked casually.
Should we check it out?
I promised not to touch anything else. Probably. Before either scientist could respond, the human was already strolling down the corridor toward the bridge, hands in his pockets, whistling what was apparently another Earth melody, something about being bad to the bone. Dr. Zixanel and Quippler exchanged a look of pure, unfiltered dread before reluctantly following. The alternative, letting the human wander unsupervised, suddenly seemed much worse. Do you think he's actually trying to take over the ship? Quippler whispered. If he were, Dr. Zixanel replied grimly. I suspect he already would have. The command center of the empirical truth was in barely controlled chaos. Alien crew members rushed between workstations, their exoskeletons clicking frantically as they attempted to regain control of the ship's systems. Commander Vrax, a towering figure with ceremonial rank markings etched into his carapace, stood at the center of the storm, barking orders in multiple dialects. When the doors hissed open to reveal Elijah Winters flanked by a thoroughly disheveled Dr. Zixanel and Quippler, the entire bridge fell silent. Ah, there you are, Commander Vrax rumbled, mandibles flaring. The specimen that has somehow thrown my entire vessel into disarray. Elijah gave a little wave. Hi there. Love what you've done with the place, very Star Trek, but with more legs. Restrain it immediately, the commander ordered, and security personnel moved forward with specialized containment devices. Elijah sighed dramatically. We're really going to do this dance again. Fine. He cleared his throat and spoke a series of seemingly random numbers and letters. Immediately, every system on the bridge shut down, plunging the room into darkness before emergency lighting activated. What did you do? Dr. Zixanel gasped. Just a little administrative override I figured out while browsing your computer systems, Elijah explained casually, hopping up to sit on a nearby console. Don't worry. Life support is still running. I'm not a monster. Commander Vrax's exoskeleton darkened with rage. Impossible. Our systems are protected by quantum encryption. Yeah, about that, Elijah replied, swinging his legs. Your quantum encryption is based on a mathematical model my species solved about 40 years ago. It was a fun little puzzle while I was in your containment field. Speaking of which, he added, turning to Dr. Zixanel, I could have left whenever I wanted. I was just curious about you guys. The xenobiologist's ocular enhancers extended fully. You remained, voluntarily. Sure did. It's not every day you get to meet aliens. Well, you're the aliens from my perspective, but you get the idea. Quippler edged closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. If you could escape our containment technology so easily, what else have you been concealing from us? Elijah smiled, and for the first time there was something predatory in his expression. Well, for starters, I've been running at about 20% of my actual capabilities. Your atmosphere is a bit thin for my taste, so I've been conserving energy. To demonstrate, he suddenly leapt from his seated position, flipping completely over the heads of the security personnel and landing silently behind Commander Vrax, a distance of nearly 6 meters covered in less than a second. See? Just basic human athleticism, he explained to the now thoroughly alarmed bridge crew. Nothing special where I come from. Our Olympic athletes would make this look amateur. Your species, all of you can do this, Commander Vrax asked, mandibles quivering. More or less, some better, some worse. We're adaptable like that, Elijah explained, casually strolling back around. You have to understand something about Earth. It's not just a planet, it's a gauntlet. Everything there is trying to kill you. Weather, geography, other species, even the air itself over geological time. Dr. Zixnall's scientific mind engaged despite his fear. But such conditions should produce simple, hardy organisms, not technological intelligence. That's where you're wrong, Elijah countered. See, we didn't just survive our death world, we conquered it. Do you know what humans essentially are? He paused for dramatic effect. We're apex predators who got bored with just hunting and decided to develop mathematics. We're pursuit predators who chased prey until their hearts gave out, then looked up at the stars and thought, I wonder what's up there to chase. The command center fell deathly quiet. Let me put this in perspective, Elijah continued. Your evolutionary history produced specialized adaptations for specific environmental niches. Our evolutionary history produced beings who can adapt to any environment. You evolved to fit your worlds. We evolved to change ours. He gestured around the bridge. This technology, impressive, sure, but give humanity a few more decades and we'd develop something similar, probably more efficient. Not because we're smarter necessarily, but because we're relentlessly curious and pathologically stubborn. Quippler's datapad slipped from her grasp. By the cosmic void, she whispered. They're not just dangerous, they're inevitable. Elijah grinned. Now you're getting it. Oh, and one more thing, that DNA report? The 0.2% that terrified you so much, that's just what your systems could recognize. The rest isn't unknown. It's simply beyond your classification parameters. Commander Vrax sank slowly into his command chair. What are you? Just human, Elijah replied with a shrug. Nothing special, except, apparently by galactic standards we're basically space orcs. Commander Vrax had summoned the ship's diplomatic officer, a willowy being named Paz Tool, whose species specialized in interspecies communication, together with Dr. Zixnall, Quippler, and 3 heavily armed security officers whose hands noticeably trembled. They sat around the conference table across from Elijah Winters, who was casually sipping a beverage he had somehow programmed the replicator to produce. Is that caffeine? Dr. Zixnall asked, watching with horrified fascination as Elijah downed his 3rd cup. Coffee, black, Elijah confirmed. One of Earth's greatest contributions to civilization. You guys should try it. Well, maybe not you specifically, might dissolve your gastric lining, but the principle stands. Paz Tool cleared their throat, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Mr. Winters, on behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I must express our most profound apologies for your unauthorized transportation to our vessel. I assure you this violation of sovereignty was not sanctioned by our highest authorities. No biggie, Elijah replied, waving a hand dismissively. Water under the bridge, or would that be vacuum under the starship in this case? You are surprisingly forgiving for someone who was essentially abducted, Commander Vrax noted suspiciously. Elijah shrugged. Look, mistakes happen. You didn't know what you were dealing with. Now you do. So let's talk about how we move forward in a way that doesn't end with your civilization discovering why humans coined the phrase finding out after fucking around. Paz Tool's translator choked momentarily on the idiom before producing a rough equivalent that made the diplomat's luminescent skin pulse with alarm. Are you threatening us, Mr. Winters? Commander Vrax asked, stiffly. Threatening? Me? Goodness no, Elijah replied, smiling broadly. I'm just having a friendly chat about potential consequences. For instance, if I don't return to Earth soon, my government might send people to look for me. People with much less patience and much more specialized training than a kindergarten teacher. Wouldn't that be unfortunate for everyone? Dr. Zixnall's exoskeleton paled. You're proposing a diplomatic solution. Bingo! Give the bug a prize, Elijah exclaimed, finger gunning at the xenobiologist. Here's my offer. You take me home. We establish proper diplomatic channels, and nobody has to find out that your most advanced research vessel was temporarily commandeered by a single human whose day job involves teaching small children how to color inside the lines. Paziztual leaned forward, and in exchange, I put in a good word for you with our leaders. Suggest that the Galactic Confederation might make good trading partners. Maybe mention that you have excellent taste in ship decor and only kidnapped me a little bit. You would vouch for us? Commander Vrax asked incredulously. After what we did. Elijah leaned back, balancing his chair on two legs in a way that made the security officers reach nervously for their weapons. That's the thing about humans you haven't figured out yet. We're not just terrifying, we're also weirdly forgiving. Sometimes, when we want to be. He let the chair fall forward with a bang that made everyone jump. But fair warning, if you try to double-cross me, I'll be very disappointed. And trust me, nobody wants to see a disappointed human. We invented passive-aggressive notes and have elevated silent treatment to an art form. Is that another threat? Quiplar asked cautiously. No, that's just Tuesday on Earth, Elijah replied with a wink. So, do we have a deal? Or should I continue my self-guided tour of your engine room? I was just getting to the really interesting parts. Commander Vrex and Pazad Tool exchanged glances, then simultaneously pushed a document across the table. The Confederation would be honored to establish peaceful relations with Earth, Pastul said formally. Smart move, Elijah replied, signing the document with a flourish. Congratulations. You just became the first alien civilization to diplomatically engage with humanity instead of ending up in our history books as an object lesson. 3 standard months after the Elijah Winters incident, the Galactic Confederation's Central Classification Bureau issued an emergency update to all spacefaring vessels. Earth, previously designated as Primitive World 3927 Misi, received a new classification, Extreme Danger. Do not approach without diplomatic clearance. It was the first time in Confederation history that an entire planet had been classified as a diplomatic entity rather than a scientific curiosity. In the quiet solitude of his private research chamber, Dr. Zixnall put the finishing touches on what would become his most famous scientific publication, Humans, the Evolutionary Impossibility. The document, running to some 47,000 words, detailed everything he had learned about human physiology, psychology, and potential. Its conclusion was succinct. In a universe of specialized adaptations, humanity represents a generalist approach so extreme it borders on the supernatural. They are in essence living contradictions to established xenobiological principles. The report spread through galactic academia like wildfire, eventually reaching popular culture where it spawned no fewer than 12 apocalyptic entertainment serials, and a particularly catchy song called Humans Are Coming, and They Drink Poison for Fun. Meanwhile, on Earth, Elijah Winters returned to his kindergarten class with fantastic stories that his 5-year-old students believed wholeheartedly, and adults dismissed as charming imagination. Only the principal raised an eyebrow when Elijah's classroom suddenly featured advanced teaching technology that somehow operated without any visible power source. The small alien communication device he kept as a souvenir remained his secret, though occasionally he would use it to send Dr. Zixnall messages, usually consisting of nothing but Earth memes the xenobiologist couldn't possibly understand. In what became an annual tradition, Elijah would send a specific message on the anniversary of his diplomatic visit to the empirical truth, a simple image of Earth's night side glittering with countless lights and the caption, "Still here, still weird, you're welcome to visit, bring coffee." Dr. Zixnall, upon receiving these messages, would inevitably reach for the bottle of fermented Jovian fungus extract he had taken to keeping in his desk drawer. The potent liquid, capable of dissolving standard Confederation metal alloys, was one of the few substances strong enough to help him temporarily forget the revelation that had shaken his understanding of the universe. In a galaxy full of aliens, humans were perhaps the most alien of all. To the Deathworlders, he would toast quietly, downing the caustic liquid in a single gulp. May they never realize just how terrifying they truly are. His assistant Quiplar, who had developed her own coping mechanism in the form of a sudden interest in human comedy movies, would inevitably respond with the same phrase, "They rounded down, sir. They always round down."